Nobody reads the whole thing. That's not a moral failing. It's arithmetic. The document in front of me today is 5 pages and nearly 5,000 words, and it's an addendum. It's the thing stapled to the actual lease. So this is not going to be advice to read everything, because you won't and neither do I. It's a method, 3 questions that work on any agreement you didn't write, in the order that actually helps, and then a 4th one that only matters when the first 3 disagree. And every single quote you'll see has been checked against the page it came from before this video existed, including the one that turned out not to be in the document at all. Here's what we're reading. It's a blank government form. Nobody's actual tenancy, no names, no address, attached to every housing voucher lease in the United States. 5 pages, for 1,700 words of it. And it's public domain, so you can open the exact document I'm using and check every word of this yourself, which is rather the point. So, the method, and then what it found. 1. What do I have to do? 2. What can they do, and what can't they? On this lease, Section 4B, the owner may not raise the rent during the initial term. And 3, the one almost nobody asks, which document wins if 2 of them disagree? There it is. If the 2 documents disagree, this one wins. Which means a clause your landlord typed into the lease can be overridden by a form neither of you wrote. And it's stated twice, page 1 and again on page 5, nearly 4,000 words apart, with a 3rd clause saying the 2 of you may not change it at all. So ask question 3 first, not last. Everything you're worried about in a contract is decided by which document controls when they conflict, and that clause is almost never near the thing it governs. Search for the words conflict, control, prevail, and govern before you read anything else. Then read the rest knowing which parts can actually be relied on. And to be clear about what this is, that's what one public form says on the pages shown, and it is not legal advice. If it's your tenancy, that's a question for someone qualified. Now the 4th question, and it's the hardest one because there's nothing to point at. What isn't in here? A document tells you what it says. It does not tell you what it left out, and the omissions are where the unpleasant surprises live. A notice period that's never actually stated, a charge with no upper limit, a term one side can change later without asking you. When you ask a document a question and get told it isn't covered, that is not the tool failing. That's the finding, and it's often the most valuable thing you'll get all day, because now you know the thing you were relying on isn't written down anywhere. The test is simple enough. Write down the 3 things you are assuming before you read, then go looking for each one specifically. Whatever you can't find, you were assuming for no reason, and that is worth knowing before you sign rather than after. And this is the difference that matters more than any prompt. Asking a document to summarize itself gives you 5 bullet points with nothing attached to them. They might be perfect, and you have no way of knowing. Asking which clause decides a specific thing gives you a sentence and a page number, and a page number takes 15 seconds to check. So always ask for the clause, not the gist. If what comes back has no location on it, ask where, and if there's no answer to where, treat the claim as not made. And here's what all of that turned up on this document. The rule that decides which document wins is on page 1. It is then repeated, in different words, on page 5, nearly 4,000 words later. 2 separate clauses saying the same decisive thing at opposite ends, with the whole document in between. Nobody reading front to back would connect them, and either one on its own changes what every other clause is worth. And because question 3 is the one that pays, here are the 4 words to search for before you read a line of it. Conflict, control, prevail, govern. Between them, they catch almost every precedence clause ever written, in leases, policies, terms of service, and employment letters alike. On this document, 2 of those 4 words find it, on 2 different pages. 3 things to take with you. Ask which document controls before you read anything else, because it decides the value of everything else. Ask for the clause and the page, never the summary, because only one of those is checkable. And treat a clean "I can't find" that as a real answer about the document rather than a failure. One last thing, and it's the reason to trust any of this. While putting this together, the first version of question 1 quoted a rent clause that sounded exactly right, the sort of sentence every lease contains. The checker looked for it in the actual document, didn't find it anywhere, and refused to go any further. It wasn't in there. It was what a lease usually says, which is a different thing entirely and reads identically. That's the whole argument in one incident. A plausible clause and a real clause look the same from the outside, and the only thing separating them is whether somebody opened the page. So ask for the page, then actually open it. And everything here is what one public form says on the pages shown. For your own agreement, ask someone qualified. One of these every day on the paperwork nobody enjoys. Subscribe if that's useful to you.